What's good, YouTube? And welcome to the house. As the bargain basement of YugiTube, you know I had to be the first Banlist discussion up for the no sooner than January expiring, which is creeping up fast. And Stream had way more to say about the Banlist, so this is going to be a relatively long video, not just for that sweet December ad revenue, but because there's so many topics to actually touch that I did not even consider. We're going to start with some that are more obvious in this metagame. Artifact Scythe is a turn-long lingering floodgate that shuts off the extra deck, and a lot of people want either it gone or its enabler Dagda. I personally think when it comes down to it, thanks to, you know, the Destroy, Phoenix, Enforcer, Engine, DPE, these two do get really problematic, even though you have decks that just don't care about them. Flundrees, Eldritch, it's still a problem added power to what's already a huge power play card in DPE. So I think it's about Scythe's time to go, take care of the problem rather than the enabler, and in the future you could actually give artifacts some cool cards that are more balanced but still very powerful to go along with the engine, and take care of the card that really leaves its mark in the game. Now the next one up is Verte Anaconda, which just got a reprint. If you know my channel, a lot of my takes are that Konami, when they are moving money more so than just a nice reprint mermaid, yeah, we can go ahead and ban that. Verte Anaconda is one of the top sellers in El Dorado, and we saw previously, you know, argued versus Red Eyes Fusion, and then, oh, is that the problem? Is Verte the problem? Is Dragoon the problem? Well, Dragoon's gonna prove to be the problem again. Not only is it able to be pulled out in V-Dub as is, that's not the biggest problem, and most decks have replaced Dragoon with DPE. We will see it revive itself when the Albaz structure comes out. This is now a Starlight rare, so I think there's no way that Konami is going to be taking Dragoon himself out of the equation, and I find it unlikely that Red Eyes Fusion or Verte is also getting hit on this list after they all just got nice reprints. But one thing that people do want hit, I didn't even see this one, is Destiny Hero Celestial, because they know that they're not going to ban DPE, but that free double draw afterwards as the grind state naturally starts to occur thanks to DPE, I really didn't think about that. Like, they've banned Discommander and even errated it for its +2, and now we have Celestial causing a similar-esque problem. I could actually see this getting the hammer to a degree. I don't think Konami's going to be on it this list. Burst of Destiny is still coming out in waves. They want to sell this engine, but it's something that could be on the horizon. And then Fusion Destiny, no shot this is getting hit this early while they're still selling Burst. But I do want to point out one thing that I really do think with Verte that's missing a lot of conversations. People love to pair it and quote, it messes with future card design. And I want to point at a card that, you know, oh wait, you don't have to have the word fusion on a fusion card that's busted, or like the Albaz Strike structure deck, you can make the fusion work way better without Verte. Weird how that broken fusion spells can actually be worded to not work with Verte, or that you can have the word not say fusion and that not really mess with card design, and you could still have a crazy card. I do think a lot of people are still talking about the Invoked engine getting hit here. It gets really good at the start of each format. People fall back on it and rely on it. It gets played throughout the formats. Alistair's being normal summoned for the 5,000th time, right? I feel like Invoked is still fine, and they just reprinted Invocation non-shorted for the first time ever, so maybe in the future Konami has a plan with that, but with it being so soon, I doubt they will. Imperial Orders still on a lot of people's list, and it's on mine, kind of. It's taken more of a backseat within this metagame as the monsters are stealing the show, but it's still a very powerful card that can just end games. It turns off an entire third of the pool. I want it banned, but I think Konami's a little too proud to ban something it's errated and fixed unless there's continued outcry from the entire community, and a lot of the community has backed off this one, but I certainly do think it should be banned. And other people actually hard defend it, like, oh, you should just draw the out 5 and just draw the quick play MST, and I'm not gonna have a Baronade protecting it or Savage as well. Come on, you all know the situation that you're defending. Mystic Mine, you're gonna have defenders of this too. I want it banned personally. At least a hit to 1. Sky Striker is back in the meta. This is in so many top decks, and it's just so terrible to watch this version of the slowdown of the game instead of a natural one. But with power creep, I guess that's what Konami feels they need. But I would love to see this to 1 or none. Somebody said E-Tully to 3 to help sell Grand Creators, and I could, weird enough, see that. I really think E-Tully putting tuners and psychics and power cards on the board is pretty good and it works with PK, which will work with the Yusha tokens. Maybe it could peel off to 3. I still feel it's a bit powerful. I'd like it to stay at 2. It's getting play at 2 in certain decks like PK's, but yeah, I guess I could see them trying to do something like that to sell a set. Called by the Grave to 3? Absolutely not in my book. You're just trying to power up those going first decks. I think they should stay at 1, if not none. And now we have Crossout Designator and other cards where you have to at least deck build around it rather than just getting that activation quick play counter for free. Shadol Schism has fallen off a lot of people's list, but chat was bringing it up alongside Winda. What's the problem here? I think it could be Winda's time to go. Winda wasn't a problem till Schism. I go back and forth on these kinds of things sometimes. Winda can also be negated, but you can put up things like Makaba easily with her that protect her. So I do feel like Winda would be the problem if it's a problem that's not just part of the metagame, but with how diverse the metagame is, I feel like a lot of people have fallen off calling for this one to get banned, but maybe. Red Reboot to 3? Absolutely not. You just want to shut off a third of the game, again, unfairly. Oh, I want to go second and feel good, then trap decks don't exist. Sorry, Eldritch. I feel like that this one, it's good to stay at 1, if not none. Anti-Spell Fragrance to 1 or 0. A lot of people are bringing this one up as it similarly does what Imperial Order does and just shuts down certain decks. It's being heavily side-decked, if not main-decked by certain matchups. I don't disagree it's about time to check and balance this card, but it's also, you're gambling. You know that you're going to win the dice roll if you're main decking it, and in the side deck, that's not as much of an issue. So, while I do see a lot of Floodgates get limited to 1, I don't know about this one, but I do agree, when I see it activated, a lot of the times it does end up being game. Ban! Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds or the Samorg Link. I think the Samorg Link is a really insane enabler that doesn't deserve it quite yet, and similar cards like Isolde haven't been called for. This is more just people going, Tri Brigade, please do something to it, along with Leerlust. I feel like this one is personally fine, but when it comes to Barrier Statue, it is the strongest Barrier Statue because of that enabling, and it's not independent each decision, right? Like, is the enabler the problem? Is the floodgate the problem? Is this or that? I feel like in this situation, though, getting rid of Barrier Statue and forcing them onto other options might be a little bit better here. Now, the Eldritch engine has received 0 hits, but just got its reprint. So, again, my personal thought is it wouldn't really get hit on this list, although it's relatively budget how it did get reprinted, so it's not like selling the product. Konami could hit it. I think that Sanguine to 2 or 1 would be a major hit to the deck, and probably too harsh, but the non-searchable win card of Cursed Eldlin, I could see that getting hit, as you're already not relying on it in most games, versus the cards that you're cycling through in your engine. So this would kind of be more of a balanced hit, in my opinion, versus the, yeah, I really would like my Eldritch on board. Triple Tactics Talent, I didn't know people wanted this hit till the stream, and I think it's perfectly fair and balanced in terms of the gameplay and interactions. It's usually being used to bust down a broken board where you need the advantage back in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, it has the effect of 3 ban cards. You have an activation requirement, a hard once per turn, and a decision tree to make on that. I do think Skullcrobat could go back to 3, and you have Odd Eyes stuff coming out in future decks. I think Pendulums could get some looks. Now, Monkey Board might be a bit of a stretch in combination with Joker, but I would like to see Monkey Joker with just 1 monkey to see how it goes. Like, that would be kind of fun for me. I think Plushfire can be back at least 1. There should be no problem at 1 in my mind, where you can't use, you know, the old luster pop effect, get another pop. Like, I think that's better at 1, but if it's a 3, is it really that big of a problem? You Pendulum Gurus, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, Kieran, I'm a fan of it staying banned. You can't target it, you can't destroy it, and while modern cards like Droplet can adapt to that a little, it's still just so crazy as a quick effect with that armor. Infernity Arching, people want it to 3. I might just be a boomer that remembers it from back in the day as like the original build, the board, the workshop deck. I personally would like to see it probably stay at 1, but I think it could peel to 3. We don't have 3 max C here in the TCG like the OCG has, which helps counter this a little, but It probably would be fine at 3. I'm just scared like I am of Necroface, I suppose. Also on the Pendulum side, I think Electromite could come back to 1. It's about time. I'd like to see it, but I guess it makes all the Pendulums play too similarly, according to Konami. Now, going back through the invoked hits, if they were to hit, I'd like to see, personally, Meltdown receive the hit to 1, then it's still searchable. You can play 2 copies with Terraforming. If it gets countered, it gets countered, but if you limit Alistair or you're limiting Invocation, you really do just choke out the engine, which some of you all want at this point, but it's just the new Glad Beast overall. It gets played in a metagame, it phases out to lower quantities, comes back at the start of a list, and you all know it's the list is coming, people will fall back on it. I don't want to deal with this again. Nadir Servant, I haven't seen as many people targeting this for a hit, and with the Albaz Strike structure deck on release in March, I seriously doubt it will, and it's still a huge selling point of the Megatons, which got waived. Wave 3 just came out, so again, selling product and also future product. I don't think it'll be happening. If they were to limit this, maybe Punishment to 1, but again, that's such a weird hit. People also want Nt's hit, which is later on this list, and I don't think Nt's is the strongest, smartest hit, but it does take care of some of that quick effects and limit what they can do overall throughout the game. Draco Face off to 3 is also perfectly fine. Now, the good old argument, try Brigade Revolt for Shureg. Either one could go to 1, and you've pretty much solved the problem of the engine continuously looping itself. But now with Lyra Lusk in the picture and being how a lot of people are playing it, you don't necessarily need to loop it as much. I don't know. Now, everyone on the stream was like, yeah, Sky Striker Hornet Jones to 3, multi-roll to 3, engage to 2, and Sky Strikers are taking over without any help. Why do you want to make it even stronger? Once you are the villain and you get banned, you really do become the hero, it feels like. And this is taking over. It's not, haha, what's it doing? Oh, it needs more help. It took 4 slots at the YCS when it peeled off with engage, right? And then it kind of cooled off. But then it started really getting traction with DPE being able to remove itself out of the main monster zone on demand, helping the deck on another level of its grind state, and it's taking event after event if you're actually ear to the ground looking at the community. Now, for some of the peel off unbans, I think Time Seal could come out to 3, even with Makiura, like they've limited eroded Makiura. This should be relatively fine. It doesn't take away the draw like Dust Shoot. People arguing for Dust Shoot because you would have to win the dice roll, you have to balance. I think this card is just absurd. I don't want to see it back at 1 or anything. Raigeki to 3, I think that's perfectly fine. It would put, you know, the Build-A-Board workshops on a little more notice, but Lightning Storm's already a superior option, and Raigeki at 3, I mean, come on, you know, Kaiju Slumbers, Dark Holes, what's it really going to change? Now, Exodia Limbs going to 3, I think the only reason this hasn't happened, in my opinion, is Treasure Panda, and making, you know, the DD Crow matter less, and also maybe the legacy into the game is why it's at 1. So I don't think they'll peel off, but realistically, everything but the head could go to 3. That grass looks greener. I used to take up the, like, advocacy of this'll warp the meta into this interesting zone where you'll play 60 cards to counter it and it'll create interesting deck building. But realistically, when a card warps the entire meta to itself like that, it's a pretty toxic card and deserves the list. Lithosasm to 3. I started to say listed and Lithosasm together, which is why I stumbled. I think this could come back to 3. Diagrams at 1. Why not give Dinos a little something after taking Miss off? I don't think Miss should be peeling off to any more. And yeah, I think this could be at 3. Yada. It could peel off, but I have a BGS 9 as one of my only 5 slabs, you know, PSA, BGS. Let's keep him on the list a little longer. Let's let him sit in jail. But seriously, he could come back just fine. I think it's for legacy. He's the oldest ban card. Gateway of the 6. I'm the 6 Samurai Master out here still. I feel like Gateway, keeping it at 1 is really good for the game. It makes the loops and that kind of stuff really value its resource, and hard opening it just makes it extremely easier. I think this is perfectly fine at 1 in the TCG. Mind Control is an interesting conversation. I personally think it should stay at 1, even though Talents is a card. Talents is a hard once per turn where you have to choose one of its effects, where this just basically either forces a negate on a Build-A-Board workshop, but if it pops off, like PK doesn't have any way to stop this, right? You're going to take F0, you're going to force something like a Fog Blade, and you're going to get it as a link material. Essentially a 2.5 for one, anytime they're not able to stop it is a bit powerful. And on that note, a Scapegoat takes multiple turns to actually get to pop off, and also requires you to build a certain kind of board where you can leave the monsters coming back. I think Scapegoat's fine to come back to 3 at this point. Only decks like Altergeist or Eldritch might even play it, and what are you going into? Boral Load, Boral Sword, an engine that makes access code talker, pretty cool power card for your deck that people already aren't taking advantage of at 1 for that much space in the extra deck, and Prosperity feels like a stronger card. I feel like this could come back to 3. Sekka's Light should definitely come back to 3. This is one of those Konami, like, should not be lazy with, and when it's not toxic, put it at 3. When it's a huge problem, back to 1. It's okay to move cards back and forth on and off the list, Konami. Terror Top with Speed the Rights having come out, I think it should stay at 1. I think it's way too much power, and we've seen it, like in the OCG, it peeled off to 2 and went right back to 1 due to Salamangreat. That's going to happen again and again through history, where he gets used as an engine outside the deck for massive advantage between tuners, between being able to link summon. It's just crazy. Dragon Rulers! I think Blaster could come back pretty easy peasy. I don't think it's toxic to the game. I do question Tidal with Mermail's Water Hand Loop decks, but they've kind of fallen on the outside looking in, really lacking consistency. I think it would be okay, but maybe there's something busted there that I'm not seeing. And Redox is the one I have the most problem saying, yeah, he can be free. A reborn card. So many different decks could take advantage of this. I feel like in Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! There's got to be something here just absolutely busting with him. But in that order, I think Blaster free, Tidal maybe, Redox probably not. Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon with the errata, peel him off to 3. He's perfectly fine at this juncture. Dynomite Knight, the True Draco Fighter. Oh, stream. You know I hate True Dracos, but I'm not a fan of the Masterpiece coming back conversation. I think MBT has fairly ended that for a bit in the community that it would be broken, but I do think Dynomite Knight, he could come back to multiples. Lingering turn-long floodgates in the metagame, Harpy Featherstorm and Arch Nemesis Protoss. I could see this one going to 1 theoretically, but I don't know that that's the craziest call in the world, and also, like, does it really deserve it? Or less try, you want to figure out certain hits versus tech options versus things that it's doing. This card is very crazy. I do like it a lot, but I'm kind of biased because I've waited for it to be good, so it probably could use some kind of hit. And Protoss, really the Bam Hammer. Well, it is a turn-long lingering floodgate, and that's very powerful in Yu-Gi-Oh! For what it does, and it's just choking out games and making it unfun, and I feel like stuff like that, like Calamities, it kind of needs to go. But I do remember when everyone was calling for Dweller during Salamangreat Striker form. I can't activate my Striker links. I can't activate my Salamangreat Spinny. Like, you know, Dweller's perfectly fine, and I think all looking back, we recognize that, and while it even has outs, right? Like, you have to, like, let them play a card so you don't get Imperm, then you can get Chalice if it's getting teched into the format, you have Droplet. While there are multiple outs that can be played in a sense, and then if you don't shotgun it, Dark Ruler No More can shut it off. I feel like, you know, it's the turn-long lingering floodgate that you have to put more materials into instead of going somewhere else versus, haha, I've summoned this and you're turned off. And also Chow Fang, people arguing about this one. A lot of people want to hit Sword Soul just a little bit, but not directly. I get why you all are looking around at the cards. I would say I would think that this should go over this because this is more of an inboard piece versus the turn-long lingering floodgate. Tikaboo, should it finally be at 1? I say personally, yes, it's up there with the names of Macro and D-Fissure at this point. I really think it should go at 1, but not necessarily banned, as that's how Konami goes with their floodgates. I would ban it if I could. I would think it's really crazy within the game against certain decks and just murders them for being what they are. But I think with Konami Brain, it will end up at 1. I did not know so many people still wanted Drytron hit so freaking bad. Eva, Benton, the Heralds came up during the stream, and then Beatrice. Well, we're not taking out both Heralds, and they weren't problems until the resource game between Benton and Eva. And then Beatrice has been a really long-term problem in the game. Hot take, I actually think that Konami has really worded a ton of cards that don't allow you to activate cards the same turn they're sent to the graveyard, and she's one of the last ones that keep floating into metagames, and maybe she should be taken care of at this point. A little unfair to Burning Abyss, don't you think? Burning Abyss have had a lot of hits, yeah, but Dante dodged them all. Maybe Dante deserves it even harder. I do think that Eva's probably the right hit, but Ben 10 is also just so generically good for rituals. It hurts for ritual players who really need help, but it should be one of these two, probably, and the others are fine in my book. Max C! As always, my opinion hasn't changed. 0 or 3 if you're gonna do it, but I prefer prefer Zero. Harpor, I do think Orca should be allowed to play, but somebody brought up the point that then a ton of decks become Orcas to but with, and I do think it's fine to have an engine like that if it's not taking over the metagame, which I don't think it would in this instance. It would be interesting to see because Gearsu really never got his chance to shine, right? But if it is all that powerful, because Mech Knights are on the outside looking in, and you have all those different decks, it could be too powerful, but I really don't know that it is. But I haven't tested and labbed that. I do think Thunder Dragon Colossus at 1 is okay. Nemesis Corridor is an argument that doesn't really work against him. And the problem back in the day was that there were 3 Colossus, and you'd always take care of 2. The last one would be there. They might have a Titan along with it. And then Thunder Dragons was one of the only decks in history to get hit and then actually get better, where Crusadia Guard Dragon Thunder became a thing. Yes. Speaking of what would go with Beatrice, Malicious, something that would help make it to 3. I think it actually should be at 3 at this point. I think it's fine. It should be. Miss, like I said, I think it should stay at 1. The problem with Miss is when you hard open it to protect those boards, like Oviraptor Miss, Fossil Dig Miss. Having to search the Miss hurts you a lot more, in my opinion. Now, going through the extra deck, Zeus, should it be banned? I honestly think it should be at some point. It's the modern day Exciton Knight. It'll probably do a run at 1 at some point, maybe even soon. But right now, I don't know that they're even going to hit it, but I think it should be at 1 at some point at least, if not banned for modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Hulk of Fibrex, ban the Hulk, free all the tuners. This got so hyped up when Cupid Pitch became a card into the pool, and a lot of people were buying it, looking at all these crazy combos, and they're just not panning out in the metagame, but they are through the rogue sections. I feel like banning Hulk at this point, it's like, what did we do it all for? Maybe I'm actually Stockholmed by Konami a little bit, but I don't think that Hulk necessarily needs to be banned at this point. But I do agree, freeing all the tuners would be super interesting, especially for the synchro decks out of Dawn of Majesty. Like, the supercharge that could give them would be really fair, versus they don't even go for Hulk most of the time. Baby. The problem with hitting where if you do hit it to 1 is that alternate options still exist, like Skull Knight. Now, it doesn't make the Dogmatica punishment a quick 2-pop multiple times, but it still gives the resource grind game back and forth of being able to deal with things, and you're not going to be hitting multiple cards for the same card. That's why I like punishment maybe to 1 if it's happening, but I don't think is the right hit. And then finally, Mirage Stalio to 3! Stalio Cantos. I do think that Stalio would be fine at 3 at this point. I don't think moving it to multiples is going to do anything, where like Circle and other cards, Gazelle, like I feel like this to 3 is the band-aid off, doesn't really do as much. But let me know if that's problematic to you. A lot of people are like, my Shaolin Greats aren't doing anything. No, they actually, at the beginning of this format, took an invitational. During Adamancipator Eldritch Full Power, took a major event. Like, this is the deck that people sleep on, and suddenly it punches through and takes an event where people go, oh yeah, I should do something about that. And with its current resources, I think it's still kind of there and doesn't necessarily need more immediately. Look how long Monarchs took to get its pieces back. I think you're going to be waiting a while, personally. Thanks for watching today's ban list content. So many cards to go over, way more than I thought, and personally, maybe you thought. What do you think of all the conversations here, and what did we miss? Oh, this should come off the list. That should come off the list. This should be going on the list. Let me know in the comments section down below. But this is far more of a big conversation than I thought was possible for what I think will be a little slap on some cards' wrist, and then a unban list majorly. I think Konami thinks this format's really healthy. Diversity doesn't always equal a healthy format, but I've had a ton of fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Lately. I know a lot of people are complimenting this metagame, saying only minor tweaks are needed, and I kind of agree with that, and we're going to evolve throughout the next couple sets, but like, Battle of Chaos isn't going to even have as big of an impact currently looking, unless DDD really takes off, as the grand creator. So looking at future sets, maybe we do need more of a shakeup from the ban list, and the community rumblings here with all these cards that came through the live stream, maybe they have a point. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the conversation, and hey, somehow we made it through Dueling Book not timing out in this conversation.